Hey friends, Carmel Holt here. As you know, times are tough for public radio and audio. And as a tiny independent feminist production company that makes SHEROES for public radio and for this podcast, we're getting hit pretty hard with financial shortfalls. Simultaneously, this is a moment where women, trans folks, non-binary, and queer folks need a safe space to be heard. And at SHEROES, we're more committed than ever before to our mission of turning up the volume of underrepresented voices in music. But to keep going, I need your help. And I have big news. SHEROES has partnered with the nonprofit AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio, and we've launched our very first fundraising campaign. You can text SHEROES to 53555 to make a tax-deductible donation through AIR or visit SHEROESradio.com. Thank you for supporting independent, femme-queer-produced audio and storytelling like the episode that you're about to enjoy. It's up to us whose voices get heard, and with your help, we'll keep turning up the volume.
It's weird to me why the guitar is like such a male-centric instrument. It must be something to do with rock stars, or I don't know. It seems like it still has like a macho reputation as a lead instrument. But I have heard like more women than ever before, and I think most people purchasing new guitars are women, but most of them are like buying them online because music stores are very daunting to women. So I've had fun on this tour. We've been going into guitar centers and I'm doing these guitar workshops, and I wanted to work with Guitar Center for a long time because I feel like that is like a daunting place for women to go into. And even for me, like when I was in my early 20s, I would dread going in because I would go in, I would like steel myself, like clenching every muscle in my body, like I'm just gonna get what I want and get out. I'd be like, I want those strings, and inevitably they'd be like, you don't want those, you want these. And I'm like, no, I know I want those, just give me them right now. So it's kind of been fun to go into guitar centers and hopefully make a space where maybe if women were feeling intimidated by going into a store like that, they could come to the workshop and have fun.
That was Molly Tuttle, and this is SHEROES, a weekly podcast to amplify women, non-binary, and genderqueer voices in music across genres and generations. We believe that sharing our stories is the first step to making music better for everyone. I'm Carmel Holt. When you're a prodigy deeply connected to a musical tradition like bluegrass, which historically has been a more male-dominated genre, being a woman is already an inherently boundary-pushing position to come up in. So one might say being an artist who represents mastery and excellence of a time-honored genre and simultaneously having an adventurous spirit comes naturally to this week's guest. Molly Tuttle has been playing guitar since she was 8. She was on stage performing by the time she turned 11 and began her career at 15. The next 15 years of Molly Tuttle's journey as a musician has been nothing short of breathtaking, much like her playing. The daughter of a bluegrass musician and teacher, her earliest performances and recordings were with her dad and siblings in a group called the Tuttles. After earning a scholarship to Berklee College of Music, Molly formed an all-female bluegrass band called the Goodbye Girls, who toured and recorded together. The major turning point happened in 2015. She moved to Nashville, and in 2017, self-released her first solo EP, Rise. That same year, at age 24, Molly Tuttle became the first woman to win the International Bluegrass Music Awards Guitar Player of the Year, an honor that she won again the following year with nominations nearly every year since, as well as an Americana Music Association Award for Instrumentalist of the Year, not to mention multiple nominations every year as a vocalist for her albums and songs. 2017 was also the year that Molly signed with Alison Brown's Compass Records and put out her debut album, When You're Ready, in 2019. That was quickly followed up in 2020 with But I'd Rather Be With You Again, and in 2021, Molly Tuttle put together her band Golden Highway and then released her next 2 albums, 2022's Crooked Tree and 2023's City of Gold. Both were crowned Best Bluegrass Albums at the Grammys, and in 2022, Molly was nominated for Best New Artist. Today, we'll learn that over the last 5 years, while all of these fast-paced and exciting career highs were happening, Molly Tuttle was also working on a collection of songs in a whole new direction that would become this year's solo album, So Long, Little Miss Sunshine. I am so thrilled to welcome the unstoppable Molly Tuttle as this week's SHEROES in the spotlight. Molly Tuttle, welcome to SHEROES. It's so great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. And on the one hand, I feel like this is overdue, but then I was thinking about it before we got started today, and I was like, you know what? This couldn't be a better moment in Molly Tuttle's career for her to come to SHEROES.
Totally. Well, I'm excited.
So congratulations on So Long, Little Miss Sunshine, your 5th studio album, which has been out for a hot minute now, just like since August.
A couple months, since mid-August. Yep.
Tell us everything. Like, how has it been going so far? How's it feel to have it out in the world?
It's been great. There was so much, lead up to putting it out. I think if I look back to this time last year, I was still in the thick of recording it last October. So it was really exciting, and it was like we put so much time and effort into the songwriting as well as the production and the recording of the album. It was just such a fun process overall. So I was super excited. It was like maybe the most excited I've ever been to put out an album. And because we finished it last fall, we had a lot of lead up time to, kind of plan all the different aspects of putting it out, from the cover to the photo shoots to the videos and stuff like that. So the whole process has been super fun. And then when it came out in the world, it has been like a big change for me. I have a new band, and it's like a different sound. So I think that was a process of just kind of like figuring out how the songs translate live as well as the older songs. So I'm like, working up stuff from all of my records with this new band where we do some bluegrass and some of the, more contemporary sounding stuff off the new record. And that's added like a whole new element to the live show as well. That's been really exciting. So I've just been hitting the road really hard this fall, touring the record, and it's been the longest headline tour I think maybe I've ever done. And it's like a lot of shows kind of crammed into a few months, but it's been awesome, and the band is on fire, and all the new songs are fun to finally get to debut live. So that's the update.
Wow. Okay, there's so much to like unpack. There's a bunch of things in there that I want to dive into, but I want to play a clip of a song here. And I understand that the track listing was really intentional. And in fact, if I'm getting this part of the story right, I think you actually had the sequence done before you recorded. Is that true?
That was our goal. We didn't have the sequence fully figured out, but we went in with a good bit of it figured out and had planned these interludes, and we actually recorded most of the album in the sequence that you hear. So usually when I've gone into the studio, actually every time I've gone into the studio in the past, you get in the first day, maybe you're like, this would be a fun song to start with in the morning. Maybe in the afternoon we'll do this more chill song when everyone's, tired after lunch. And there's really no rhyme or reason to the order of recording the songs. But this time it was really fun to think about, like, what song do we want first on the album? And maybe we'll start with that on the very first day and then do a little instrumental segue into the second song and then record the second song. So, yeah, I think we did that for the first couple of days, and then it all kind of, fell apart a little bit on the last few where after then we're like, well, we don't really have a plan for what comes next. But we did have more of the kind of segues planned out for the songs. And like looked at the keys of the songs, like which ones are going to go together. Maybe this song will end on actually modulate at the end of the song into the key of the next song. So stuff like that you hear throughout the record. I think it works on its own too, so you don't have to listen to it in order, but it was kind of a fun, like, new way of recording that I really liked.
Well, so I usually ask my guests to lead us into the album, not necessarily in order, but like if you were introing somebody to this project now, from where you are now for the first time, where would you take them? And I don't know, maybe that is track one, but up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can start with track one, which is one called Everything Burns. And this one starts off the album with like a big long guitar solo, which again, it was kind of a fun, like, different thing for me to, start things off not with, like, singing a song or, like, a little short intro and then right into the song, but I really got to stretch out on the guitar on that first track. And I think that sets the stage for an album that's, like, not solely, like, a singer-songwriter album. It's also very much, like, a guitar record, too, which was one of our other goals in making the record.
Everything
That's Everything Burns. It kicks off the new album by Molly Tuttle, So Long, Little Miss Sunshine, her fifth studio release. She's our guest today on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. So you gave us like the Cliff Notes version of the story of this album. And I said, okay, there's a lot to unpack here. One of the things that I also thought was so interesting, listening to you tell the story, but also reading about the lead up to this, was that you made this major announcement of working with a new touring band. And of course, it caught my eye because it was like, Molly Tuttle announces an all-female lineup for a new thing. And it's like, woo, like an all-female lineup. That is still so crazy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Talk to us about that moment, about that intention, and how that intersects with this new album. What was that intent about?
Yeah, so for this album, it's really like more of a solo record than my last two albums. A few years ago when I made a record, Crooked Tree, it was my first album that I felt like was an homage to the bluegrass music that I grew up with. I wanted to make a bluegrass record because my first couple records that I made were a little more experimental, sort of in the vein of this album, where they weren't totally tied to any one genre. But when I went to make my bluegrass record, I thought it could be fun to have a band name to kind of differentiate it. And also it's just like a tradition within bluegrass music is a lot of times people choose band names after maybe like their home state. Like it started with Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. So he was from the bluegrass state of Kentucky. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll do a band name that goes back to my home state, California. So that's how I came up with my band name, Golden Highway. And I just liked, kind of having that be live in its own world there as like, that's my bluegrass project. So then we made two records and it was so much fun. I had a blast working with, my bandmates. And the second record we made with the touring band, Golden Highway. And so, yeah, when I went to make this new record, I didn't really know what it was going to become. And it ended up being more of a solo record. It didn't feature my touring band. And then when we had it all finished, I was like, well, I'm probably going to, need to tour this in a little bit of a different way. The instrumentation is a lot different. At the same time, some of my bandmates in Golden Highway were wanting to pursue their solo careers and having different life changes there. So it kind of was like all lining up to where I just need to figure out, okay, when am I going to make the switch over to this new sound, the new record, the new band? So yeah, I put the band together and they're absolutely like fabulous musicians. It just ended up being an all-female band, not on purpose at all. I reached out to a few different people and like it just kind of came together this way. And I was like, that is such a like added bonus because you don't see that even today. It's still kind of rare to be like, we play a festival and like a lot of times there's not many other women on stage at all, let alone like an all-female band. So to me, that's like an added bonus, but not anything I set out to do or like make a statement about or anything. It just kind of goes to show that like, there's so many great female musicians, especially here in Nashville. It's just like a very supportive community. So the first person I reached out to was my bass player, Vanessa. And like after I reached out to her, she's recommending her friends who she's worked with before, and then they're recommending other friends. And then suddenly it all just came together this way. So yeah, I think we have a really strong community here of women instrumentalists. And I love getting to, be part of that.
And this sort of harkens back to your first band, right? Wasn't your first band that you were in, not your family band, but like you were in an all-female group before,
Yeah,
right?
I was in an all-female band. Again, it happened like organically, which I think is cool because for me anyway, when I get called for being in a band or a certain gig, I don't want to be like, I'm happy to do it no matter what, but I like it more if I'm not being asked to do something based on my gender. So, the first band I was in, one of my first bands, I was in a few different bands, like growing up too. I was actually in another all-female band as a teenager called the Barefoot Nellies, and we played the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival in San Francisco. And then I went to college and I was playing under my own name. So I was starting my solo project. I had a few different, lineups of that band that I'd play with, just kind of whoever was available. I was living in Boston, going to Berklee College of Music. And so I had a friend who was from Sweden and she was offered a tour in Sweden and they asked her to put together a band of Berklee students. And we started a band called the Goodbye Girls. And then we ended up having so much fun that we did a bunch of tours for a few years after that initial one in Sweden. But yeah, that was again just, she had a banjo player who was a friend of mine, Allison DeGroot, who she had asked. Allison asked me, and then my roommate happened to play the bass, Brittany Carlson. So I was like, how about she can round out the band? And yeah, again, it just sort of fell together that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these things catch my eye because, as you pointed out, this is still kind of unusual to see. And festival lineups, as you said, are still not equal. And I'm just curious from your perspective, with so much experience already under your belt, you're still so young. You've been at this since you were 15 years old or something. So, like, do you experience, even though it's not intentional and it's like just sort of happened by accident almost, is there a difference to you? Like when you're doing it with a whole group of women versus a mixed gender situation, or is it exactly the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't really like even notice it at this point. I'm so used to playing with other women that it's always really cool, but to me there's not like a huge difference, especially when we're on stage. I'm not thinking about it really.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just become so normalized for me because, I feel like I used to have to kind of like go out and make an effort to try to hire women in my bands, but now it's just become so common. It's like easy. Like I was saying, I didn't even try to like put
That's
together
great.
and all. I would have been like happy with any sort of combination of people making up the band as long as the music was great. But yeah, I think like there is kind of a special feeling. I remember like, especially the first few times I played with like an all-female lineup or band, you do kind of like share certain stories, and there's kind of like you have like certain things you bond over on the road and this and that you can just kind of relate to each other on a different level. So yeah, that stuff is always fun. But I mean, when we hit the stage, I feel like it's just we're making music. Like there's not like a specific different feeling to it, I guess.
Right. Well, let me ask the question a different way too. How does it affect you in terms of how it is perceived? Like, does the emphasis on the gender of it all affect you one way or the other, or are you just kind of like neutral on it all the way around? So, like, I mean, I've seen you referred to as like one of the best, female guitarists even,
Right.
And I'm like, why does the gender need to go between the best and the guitarist? Like, we don't need that necessarily, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it used to like sort of start to bug me a little bit, but now I feel like it's really cool, especially with this new band lineup at our shows. I just look out and the women are jamming out in the crowds, and the little girls, there's so many little girls who come to our shows, and I'll be like, how are you even staying up this late? They'll be like on the rail, and there's like 4 like 10-year-old girls. I'm like, it's like almost midnight. You guys need to go to bed. But I love that they're there. So that's kind of like a fun part for me. And yeah, just like, I mean, I guess part of it can be sort of annoying when people fixate on it too much. I think that is like sort of changing too. I feel like that ebbs and flows. Like, certain times in my life, people have really focused on that a lot more. And then you kind of like get into a place where people aren't talking about it as much, and then they start talking about it again. It just kind of, I feel like it's just sort of reflects where society is at with certain things. But yeah, I think for a while it felt like pretty... Like, I remember around the time when I won the Guitar Player of the Year at International Bluegrass Music Association, I was the first woman to ever win it, which was a huge honor. And, like, I didn't even realize that at first when it happened. And then suddenly every interview I did was asking about how does it feel? I was like, I don't know. My answer just slowly changed over time. Suddenly I felt like I had to be, like, an ambassador for young girls playing the guitar, which... It's cool. Like, I'm happy if I can inspire young girls to play the guitar, but it felt like this added pressure where I was like, I just love playing music. This wasn't really something I've thought about a lot. Like, I'm happy to inspire others, but it's like, I'm just getting started in my career at that time. Right. So I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm not solely doing this so that like more women will play the guitar. Like, I'm mainly just love playing the guitar. So suddenly felt like I was this ambassador to women guitar players, which was, I didn't always really know how to answer those questions. So it was kind of like I had to think about it a little bit. But yeah, that is kind of an added layer that you have to think about that I don't think men deal with as much. Like, you don't ask men, like, how do you feel about inspiring young boys. Maybe they do get asked that. I honestly don't know. But I get asked about it a lot.
I feel like the next level of everything will be when there is no binary that way of to be inspired to play an instrument, you have to see somebody of your same gender identity doing the thing. Like a boy seeing you getting inspired to play guitar would be awesome.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad, though, I have to give him credit because I think actually someone told him, like, when I was a kid playing the guitar, one of his friends was like, you should find, like, some women for her to listen to who play the guitar. So he found me, like, this woman out in the Bay Area, Nina Gerber, who's a great guitarist. She played with one of my heroes, Kate Wolf, on a lot of her great records and toured with her. And so he found her at a festival and got me a guitar lesson with her, and like was always kind of pointing out different women guitar players to me, kind of normalized it. And like, even if they weren't guitar players, like always kind of trying to find me women role models. And there were a bunch of them in like the bluegrass scene in the Bay Area, a bunch of women leading bands like Laurie Lewis and Kathy Kallick. So that was like I think that did help me just not even think about it as much. Yeah. It didn't seem abnormal to me at all. And then when I went to music college, that's when I was like, wait, I don't have like any other women in a lot of my classes. It's kind of strange. Yeah. But yeah, my dad did a good job of that.
Well, it's just like such a mixture of like good news and also like the stories that we're used to hearing here in what you're saying. And it makes me so happy to hear the progress that we're making. I do want to get back to talking about the record and also get to another track. One of the other things that you were telling us going in was how long you'd been working on these songs and how excited you were to do these sessions. And was this the first time that you'd worked with Jay Joyce?
It was, yeah. I've been talking about working with him, like you mentioned, for a while. In the pandemic, I was writing a bunch and just had like a bunch of different songs that I had my bluegrass songs that ended up on my record Crooked Tree, and then I had all these other songs that were a little more ambiguous. And I was sending him some of those. Ultimately, I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go in, and some of the songs did end up on my new record, a handful of ones that I wrote 4 or 5 years ago. We ended up kind of reworking, editing, maybe even rewriting certain sections and recording on the new record. And then the rest of them I kind of wrote within the last year or two. So yeah, it was a long process of just slowly like collecting these different songs.
Yeah, because it's interesting too, right? How, you write songs of a moment and then having them sit around for a while. Interesting to reflect on the new meaning that they might have or totally. Telling that story. What is the oldest song on this record?
I think the oldest one is the first one that I ever wrote with my partner, Ketch Secor, and we wrote Golden State of Mind, maybe 5, 6, trying to think what year maybe we wrote it in 2020, so that would be like a 5-year-old song. So yeah, that one is maybe the first one that I remember writing. I wrote a couple with Kevin Griffin shortly after that. That's Gonna Leave a Mark, and the song Easy. So we wrote those two, and that's when I was kind of experimenting with different songwriting styles, and That's Gonna Leave a Mark we released as the first single. It's kind of the most pop-leaning song on the record, and Kevin, some of you may know him from the band Better Than Ezra. He's an amazing songwriter and has just such an ear for like catchy melodies and hooks. So he's a really fun person to write with.
Amazing. Well, should we play one of those that you wrote with Kevin? You pick. Which one?
Let's go with That's Gonna Leave a Mark.
Anything you want to tell us about the lyrical themes in this song before we go into it?
Yeah, the song is kind of like the lyrical themes, I guess they're sort of fun. It's like a flirty kind of sassy song. It's not like, it's not as much like storytelling. It's just, you'll hear it. But we did kind of rework the lyrics a little bit before going into the studio. I remember we had the second verse was, I know it's hot out here in LA. And I was like, when we wrote it, I was kind of toying with, do I want to move to LA? Maybe I should, go try living somewhere else. And then the pandemic happened. Then I ended up staying in Nashville. I still live in Nashville. So we changed it to Tennessee and rewrote a couple of the other lyrics. And now I like it because I'll change the city name to whatever city I'm playing in. And people are always like, yay.
You know it's hot out here in Tennessee. So why'd you have to bring the heat wave, baby? That's gonna leave a mark.
That's Gonna Leave a Mark from the new Molly Tuttle album, So Long, Little Miss Sunshine, her 5th studio full-length album. She's here with us on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. You know what? It makes me so happy to kind of from the sidelines cheer people on as they grow and evolve their sound. And also, it's a courageous thing after having so much success in a lane to step outside of that lane and really claim your artistry. I think about an artist like Joni Mitchell, for example, who was so single-minded only about, not genre, but about her artistic growth, pushing her own musical edges, the press be damned. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't concerned about the trappings of genre. And I just think that that is like the sign of somebody who's really like stepping into their own in a new confident way when they're able to do that. And for you to do that so soon in your career is, especially on the heels of so much success, feels brave.
Thanks.
Yeah. How does it feel to you?
It's cool. Like, part of me is like, you know, change is scary at the same time. I think when I'm making the music, I'm not thinking about it. And then I'm like putting it out in the world. I'm like, oh, I want people to like this, you know. And so, yeah, anytime you're going to like change your sound or change what you're doing, it can be kind of scary. But yeah, I feel like I just have different parts of what I do as a musician, different parts of my artistry that I want to be able to express. And part of that is kind of like staying in a lane and like making music that's very much like of a certain tradition. Like, I love making bluegrass music and old time music and just feeling those kind of like, you know, I know the rules, I know the like constraints of the genre, and I know how to make that style of music, but then I also like to kind of make stuff that feels very much my own, and like there's not as many rules or guidelines around what I'm doing. But I love Joni Mitchell. Like, I've read so many interviews with her, and like I feel like so many of my favorite artists weave through different genres and styles of music, and like whatever is kind of making them feel inspired in the moment. That's what I try to do, is just like part of it is out of my control because it's like the songs I'm writing and the people I want to work with, and just whatever door is like open to me at the time. That's what feels the best in the moment. Like, you can try to force a certain thing or like a certain album or have some idea in your head of what you want to do next, but that doesn't always manifest, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. And how did that manifest in terms of how you worked in the studio? Like, were there some new things that you tried where you really felt like you pushed your edges there, or you were pushed to try new things?
Yeah, the studio working with Jay Joyce was really fun, and like we took a lot of time on the pre-production end of things. It all felt very fluid, where we'd have new ideas every day. Like, even the kind of ideas for what musicians we were calling in was kind of always fluid as well, or we'd kind of talk about it each day, be like, well, maybe we should have this sound, maybe we should do this. And yeah, so I think the biggest part for me that I worked on the most was probably the guitar parts, and then maybe second, like the songwriting arrangements and the lyrics, just finishing those and fine-tuning everything. But we spent a lot of time on the guitar, which was great because that's always the last piece of the puzzle for me, that especially for like songs I'm writing that, you know, aren't as much in like my wheelhouse. Like, I feel like when I write like a bluegrass song or like a fast, like kind of barn burner type song, I know what to do on the guitar. But when I write a song like Everything Burns, I'm like, I don't really know. And like my first demos are just me strumming and singing, but I know that like I want my guitar playing to be as much a part of the song as the other aspects of it as well. So he took the time to just kind of sit with me and had so many great ideas for different solos and riffs and rhythm things I was doing underneath the verses and the chorus, and that was really fun. He also wanted to push my guitar playing to be a little more melodic because he went to go see me when I played at the Ryman in Nashville, and he was like, I want your solos to, you know, have a melody to them and not be like an endless stream of notes, which sometimes I do kind of slip into my habits of playing a certain way. So that was really fun. I think a lot of times when I'm in the studio, people are just like, play a solo, and I take a couple passes, like, oh, there were no mistakes, so let's just use that one once we get a good one. But with him, it was kind of like I would play a solo, and I'm like, I think that was good. And then he'd be like, I think you can do better. So we'd spend, you know, another hour on it or something. So that was, I like being pushed kind of to, yeah, I guess like hone in on my sound a little bit more and kind of push into new territory.
Can we talk a little bit about guitar and your journey with that instrument? There is still like a little bit of a gendered, I think it's getting better, I think. But you can probably shed more light on that than I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the guitar for me, it's just like so much of who I am as an artist is like I express myself through the guitar. It was my first instrument. I feel like it comes the most naturally to me. I have to really work at like my songwriting and my singing, but guitar has always kind of felt like, I mean, I've worked at it a lot too. And there were times when I was at music college, I think I just focused on the guitar so much, and that really helped me get it to a place where I felt like I could express myself better on the instrument. But I just wrote a song and the lyrics is, "This old guitar will surely be the death of me." And part of me feels like my guitar is like torturing me, because it's like, you know, I've lost so much sleep over this thing. I've put countless hours. I've worked my fingers to the bones. I've literally bled on my guitar. But I remember when I was a kid, it was like my guitar was my best friend. And then I never could have imagined that it would be taking me to all these places and like bringing me all these adventures and, you know, like great times and like the highest highs, but also like so much anxiety and the travel and the stress and carrying it around on my shoulder. So it's just been my life companion, I guess, at this point. But as far as women guitarists, I think it is, you know, starting to change. It's weird to me why the guitar is like such a male-centric instrument. It must be something to do with like, you know, rock stars, or I don't know. It seems like it still has like a macho reputation as a lead instrument. But I have heard like more women than ever before, and I think most people purchasing new guitars are women, especially maybe acoustic guitars. I don't know. I have to look it up. I don't really know the stats. I also heard something, and this might have been like a pandemic thing. I can't remember exactly, and it might be totally false, but I heard that like out of all the people buying guitars, most of them are women, but most of them are like buying them online because music stores are very daunting to women.
Yes.
So I've had fun on this tour. We've been going into guitar centers and I'm doing these guitar workshops, and I wanted to do something with Guitar Center for a long time because I feel like that is like a daunting place for women to go into. And even for me, like when I was in my early 20s, I would dread going in because I would go in, I would like steel myself. Like I'd be like, you know, clenching every muscle in my body. Like I'm just going to get what I want and get out. I'd be like, I want those strings. And inevitably they'd be like, you don't want those, you want these. And I'm like, no, I know I want those. Just give me them right now. So it's kind of been fun to go into guitar centers and hopefully make a space where maybe if women were feeling daunted or intimidated by going into a store like that, they could just go and come to the workshop and have fun. And yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because literally like the last like 3 interviews we've talked about Guitar Center, and there's this, do you know the podcast Subway Takes?
No. Oh yeah, I have. I've seen videos of that.
Yeah. So there's this artist named Ian Sweet who did a Subway Takes episode, and her take was all about Guitar Center.
Oh my gosh.
And it's worth seeing. I mean, for real, because it's like, it is still definitely a thing. Like, I don't want to bash Guitar Center. I think it's great that you're going in there and doing what you're doing, though, because her take was like, we need a day that's just for women so they can feel safe.
That's
or
so funny.
they can, get waited on or
that's
something.
Why I love Guitar Center too, and I love going in and like nerding out over the guitars and stuff. But that's like part of the reason I was like, I've been wanting to do something with Guitar Center for so long, and like it's been really, really fun. And they've been great.
Amazing.
Like their teams, all the people helping us at the stores and stuff, they've all been awesome. So I have no bad will against Guitar Center. I'm like, it's been super, super fun, and I hope I get to keep doing them, and hopefully people will keep coming out.
Me too. I hope so too. We have Molly Tuttle here with us on SHEROES. The new album is called So Long, Little Miss Sunshine. Let's get to another song here. So I know that there's an aspect of this album, maybe not all of it, but that's a little autobiographical. And in fact, I really wanted to talk about, I hope it's okay to jump down to track 9, Old Me, New Wig, which is the song where the title comes from for the record.
Yeah, that song has a line in it, I got a new wig to get you out of my hair. And that was the first time I've kind of like explicitly written about my experience with alopecia and losing my hair when I was years old. And then when I was 15 years old or so, when I was going into high school, I started wearing wigs. And I've been a wig wearer ever since. But then it took me a long time to kind of, get comfortable with sharing my experience. Because I kind of felt like when I first started wearing wigs, I was like, yay, now I don't have to talk about this ever again and no one will ever know. So it became like sort of this secret that I was hiding. But I learned like that doesn't really work because you shouldn't be like keeping a big secret about yourself from the world. It just causes a lot of extra stress and just feeling like something is wrong with you. So I slowly started like talking about alopecia publicly, raising awareness and working with the Alopecia Foundation. And that was really helpful for me just to kind of make it into this platform that I felt like I could make a difference for other people, but also like help myself feel more comfortable just being open about it. And so, yeah, it was fun with this new song, Old Me, New Wig. It's all just about kind of like shedding those old past versions of yourself. Maybe if like it's something you're insecure about. For me, it's literally like sometimes in the show I'll like throw off my wig, and that to me is like representing stepping into a more confident version of myself. But the song was fun to write. It sounds like you're leaving this person behind with each line, and then in the chorus it gets to the hook is like breaking up with the old me, so you're actually like leaving your past self behind. I guess it sort of inspired, well, it did inspire the album cover too. I'm wearing like 8 different wigs, and in the middle it's a picture of me without the wig. And yeah, so that song, I came up with the album title, So Long Little Miss Sunshine, and that to me just means like you're kind of saying so long to like being like a people pleaser or just trying to make everyone around you happy all the time, and like you're stepping into more kind of a truer version of yourself. So I really wanted to have a picture of me without the wig on the album cover. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, but I love wearing wigs. I like, it's so much fun. So then I was going back and forth. How do I like not wear wig, but wear wig on the cover at the same time? So I thought of like that grid of kind of all the different hairstyles that you see if you look up the cover. And then I liked kind of brainstorming the different styles to represent different sounds, different songs on the record, to kind of represent all the different styles incorporated in the music. But yeah, it all came from that one song.
I changed my guitar strings so I can tune you out. I got a new song to sing, you don't know who it's about.
That's Old Me, New Wig. We have Molly Tuttle here with us on SHEROES. The new album is So Long Little Miss Sunshine, her 5th full-length album. And I'm Carmel Holt. We were talking about the song and also about the cover art, which is sort of related, and that moment where you take your wig off sometimes during live performance. And I think this is the first time that you've been photographed on an album cover with your wig off too, right?
Yeah.
So, like, this is all brave. Like, you know, the new sonic palette and the taking this step into, I mean, I may have already asked you this, but do you feel that? Like, do you feel a sense of bravery? I mean, it's probably a little scary, too, as far as this part of it goes, the visual.
Yeah, I mean, for the visual, I've taken so many little baby steps along the way. Like, to me, that's like less scary than like going in a new sonic direction or even like having a new band or this or that. Like that to me has become like the least scary part in a way. I mean, my only worry sometimes is I don't want to like detract from the music, but I kind of can't help it because it's how I look, and I wear wigs, or sometimes I don't, and people always like are gonna notice it and have comments about it or this and that. But yeah, I think it's like, I'm 32 now and I've had no hair for 29 years, I guess. So it's taken a long time, but at this point I'm like, I really have like taken so many tiny steps towards feeling confident about it. So it's been a long process. But this didn't feel like a huge leap. It just felt like another little step along the way, I think.
Well, and having this backdrop of all of this change at once kind of creates that like level of safety where it's like, I'm just going to like open it all up at once so that it isn't the only thing.
Felt like that was the thing to do with this record and with the songs and the music.
It's very kind of cohesive in that way. And it was interesting, you know, thinking about that aspect of what you were doing. Oh, and by the way, I also want to shout out your amazing photographer. Let's talk about how amazing Ebru is. I always want to give her a shout out wherever possible. She's so awesome. One of the topics that comes up a lot on SHEROES is being perceived, the visual aspect, the male gaze, or any gaze at all. This aspect of the job of being seen, press photos, album covers, being on stage, being photographed, videos, all that stuff, and what we go through as femme folks, as women in those circumstances that might be different than the male experience. And you have a whole different relationship with that, or a different level of relationship to that. So I was just curious about that and like what your relationship is to the gaze. Let's just call it the gaze. Yeah.
I think like in one way, you know, having alopecia and like having that be kind of like a lifelong question of like, how do I want to present myself? It's taught me so much about like how people treat you differently based on how you look. Like I can go out without a wig and feel like people are reacting to me a lot differently than if I have hair. So those were just things I like had to kind of accept early on. So I think when it came to like, how do I want to look on stage? What do I want to wear? It was never a question of like, it's more just kind of like I've learned to accept that like you can control how people are perceiving you to a certain extent, obviously not like completely, but no matter what choice you make, it is a choice. So yeah, I guess that's how I feel about too with like wearing wigs, not wearing wigs. It's always just kind of, I can't just ignore it and be like, it's not going to like affect anything. It's not really like I'm making a choice. It is kind of like I have to think about how do I want to be perceived in a way. And yeah, it was really fun working with Ebru. She just totally got the vision. And with this one, I just wanted to be like a chameleon and almost to like poke fun at that idea of like you have to be one thing or you have to like have this perfectly one curated image of yourself. It's like, why can't we, you know, be different every day?
Totally. I love this idea of working with the visual to also communicate as well. That's a very empowering thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's like, I guess it is kind of something I've had to think about. Like, I go back and forth each album cover. I'm like, maybe I want to not wear the wig on this one. But this one I was sure that I wanted to have at least one picture of me without it. I think maybe if I was at a point where like, I never wore wigs, I would just want one picture of me without the wig, but I kind of wanted to represent like where I'm at with my journey too, where I wear like different wigs all the time and sometimes without, but a lot of times I do wear them still.
Before we wrapped up, I wanted to just trace your history a little bit for those that don't know you. This is the first time we've had you on the show. So you grew up in the Bay Area and you started playing guitar when you were like 8?
Yeah, when I was 8.
I'm getting that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, tell us a little bit about, like, how did this happen, this dream? Like, just amazing. Like you were saying before, I can't believe that I just became obsessed with the guitar and it's taken me all these places.
Yeah, so I grew up in Palo Alto, California. My mom is from there. She grew up there as well. My dad grew up on a farm in Illinois. My grandfather, my dad's dad, played the banjo and loved. They would go down to the Grand Ole Opry, visit Nashville, and go to bluegrass festivals all around Illinois. So my dad kind of grew up only listening to bluegrass music. And he moved out to California after going to college, and he just wanted to, I don't know if like all the viewers are familiar with all the different bluegrass celebrities that we have, but Tony Rice is like one of the legends of bluegrass guitar playing. So, and he was living in the Bay Area in the late 70s and 80s. And so was David Grisman, who's like one of the iconic mandolin players of all time, like created his own genre of music, basically. So my dad moved out to the Bay Area kind of for that reason. He wanted to see that band live and be around a bunch of his musical heroes, but was planning on going into finance. And then he stumbled into a music store in Palo Alto, California, just down the street from where I grew up, Griffin Stringed Instruments. And they had these little rooms throughout the store where people would be teaching music lessons. So my dad ended up teaching bluegrass music in the Bay Area. He still teaches, but now he teaches online on Zoom lessons. So he's been teaching music for almost 50 years now. And for like 40 something years, he was teaching at Griffin Stringed Instruments. So I grew up always going into the music store and hearing music around the house. And he would have jam sessions. And I just totally got brainwashed into loving bluegrass music and roots music and all the stuff my dad was into. So then when I was a little older, I asked for a guitar and he started teaching me just basic guitar stuff. And then after a couple of years, we started like playing little local shows around. I think our first show was at like a pizza parlor down the street from my parents' house. And my two younger brothers also play music. So we would play together as a family. And yeah, that's how it sort of came to be. And then I started writing songs. I took a songwriting class when I was maybe 15, 16 at a community college. And that's how I started writing songs. And then I went to Berkeley, and that's when I started my, like, playing shows under my own name, playing solo shows, moved to Nashville after that, and then recorded my own music for the first time. Yeah, I guess that's sort of my origin story.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, I wanted to ask a question about the genre of bluegrass and kind of more traditional string music. What's the gender balance of that genre typically?
Yeah, I think it's shifted a lot since I've started even. Like, I remember when I was younger, it was a little more rare to see women in bands, and there were some all-female bands out there on the festival circuit, but not too many. And it was sort of seen as like, not a novelty, but like just kind of this thing that you didn't see too often. Now I feel like it's a lot more common for women, especially like women instrumentalists weren't as common when I was starting out. And now it's like way more, you see it a lot more when you go to like a bluegrass festival or a bluegrass jam session. But yeah, I think especially in the early days, like you just hear horror stories of like what women in bluegrass were going through. Like I'm sure it was like that in most genres, but one of my earliest heroes was Hazel Dickens, who was kind of one of the first women to have her own bluegrass band. And I remember reading, she has a great book called Workin' Girl Blues, where it has all her lyrics, and she writes these personal anecdotes, and she just talks about how rough it was, like going to the merch table and just being like hit on constantly and like harassed basically at her own shows. So I think each generation has to deal with different things, and it gets easier over time.
Well, thank you for, whether or not you meant to, inspiring so many, I'm sure.
Thanks.
I'm so grateful to you for sharing so much of your time and your story with us today on
Thanks
SHEROES.
so much for having me.
We close every episode by making some magic. Are you ready to make some magic?
Oh, sure.
I hand my guests a SHEROES magic wand. It's an imaginary wand, but it's powerful. And now that you hold the wand, Molly Tuttle, you can change anything in the music industry for women, for non-binary folks, for queer folks, for anybody who still doesn't have an equal place in the music world. First wave of the wand is just like a first thought, best thought exercise. What would you change?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I would say like just basic, making everything more comfortable for us women and female people, and just kind of like from the basics of let's just have some mirrors in the green room, let's have tampons in the bathrooms. Let's have those little luxuries that just make our days a little bit easier on tour. And maybe let's also have more space on like billings and festival lineups, and more headliners too. Make more space on the headline slots as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say, just as a follow-up, like some of those things that you mentioned to have in green rooms are not luxuries, they're kind of necessities.
Yes,
and so,
they're kind of necessities.
Yes, so that would be great. Do you know the Instagram account Book More Women? Are you familiar with that? I love it. Great. Yeah. So, I mean, Abby, love ya. Hopefully one day she won't need to do all that data because it's all going to be equal one day.
Totally.
And Molly, you're helping making that so with your magic wand. Thank you so much. Let's pick a song to go out today. Your choice. How would you like to close?
Ooh, let's close with the last track on the record, Story of My So-Called Life.
Anything you want to tell us going into it about the song?
Yeah, this song is all about little moments from my life, looking back on them and recognizing, where I'm at now and just kind of looking ahead and kind of unsure but excited about what's to come next. And on my last couple albums, I've always liked to end with sort of an autobiographical one, just to take stock of where I'm at and how I got here and, look forward to what's next.
You are a shero for sure. Thank you for being with us, Molly Tuttle. What a pleasure.
Thanks.
Many thanks to Molly Tuttle for being with us. So Long Little Miss Sunshine is available now on Nonesuch Records. Catch Molly out on tour this month and go to mollytuttlemusic.com for dates. SHEROES is produced by me, is mixed and mastered by Kelly Drake. Our original theme music is by Lucius. Our podcast is distributed by Talkhouse. SHEROES is also a nationally syndicated radio show. Please visit SHEROESradio.com to find out more. Keep in touch on Instagram at SHEROES Radio, and please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also subscribe to our new YouTube channel, SHEROES Productions. SHEROES is 100% independent and is made possible through the support of our public radio affiliates and now listeners like you. Through a new partnership with the nonprofit AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio, we've launched our very first fundraising campaign. Text SHEROES to 53555. That's SHEROES to 53555 to make a tax-deductible donation through AIR or visit SHEROESradio.com. Thank you for supporting independent, femme, and queer-produced audio and storytelling. And until next time, remember, music is our superpower. I'm Carmel Holt. Thanks for listening. Also from SHEROES Productions, take a journey on the road to Joni, an Ambie Award-nominated 10-episode series celebrating the legacy and impact of Joni Mitchell. Distributed by Talkhouse. Subscribe now to The Road to Joni wherever you get your podcasts.